In this week's Torah portion, Tetzei, we read in the book of Deuteronomy, "You shall not see your brother's ox or sheep straying and hide yourself from them. Instead, you shall return them to your brother. But if your brother is not near you, or if you don't know him, you shall bring it into your home, and it shall be with you until your brother requires it, and then you shall return it to him. So shall you do with his donkey, and so shall you do with his garment, and so shall you do with any lost thing of your brother's, which he has lost and you have found. You shall not hide yourself." The Hebrew lo tuchal leitalem can be read several ways. Most literally, it will be translated, "You shall not hide yourself." And more figuratively, "You shall not ignore it." Or more to the point, "You shall not remain indifferent." Medieval commentator Rashi, as you all know, interprets, therefore, "You must not cover your eyes, pretending not to see it." In other words, as you see your brother's livestock wandering aimlessly, you can't ignore your obligation by saying it's not your problem. Once you have spotted the problem, you are under the obligation to fix the problem. As a society, we seem to respond when the cause is terribly great or popular, and all those tragic events which affected so many forced us to rise up and answer the call of our hearts without having to be asked. At the time, and at the same time, we get inundated with other calls to action. But along with those televised requests comes a remote control. Lo tuchal leitalem, you shall not ignore it. The Torah calls out, and yet we turn the channel, allowing us to hide our eyes from obligation. Obligations don't appear solely in the form of social action. I find it interesting that the Torah refers specifically to seeing a donkey. An elephant is mentioned nowhere in the Torah. Lo tuchal leitalem. You shall not ignore it. The Torah reminds us, and once again, we turn the channel and once again hide our eyes from obligation. We often hide our eyes in an effort to avoid doing things that deep down we know are the right things to do. Some of us do this so well, it has become second nature. Fortunately, there are many who jump to action when action is warranted. They give when asked, but give even when they are not asked. They participate when asked, but lead the way even when they are not asked. They demand justice when asked, but pursue justice even when they are not asked. Understanding the notion of obligation is turning away from apathy and engaging life. Indifference should not be a human condition. Life demands connection, demands action and participation. In 1986, the Holocaust survivor and Nobel Prize winner Elie Wiesel said, "The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of beauty is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, but indifference between life and death. But, my dear friends, let me be clear. The opposite of indifference is not necessarily action. It is engagement. Sometimes people don't engage because of a lack of hope. That is certainly understandable. Hope has become a rare commodity in recent times, but its lack or absence doesn't excuse us from not being engaged. Quite the opposite. If we need hope, if we need encouragement in order to engage, then our engagement can be found in that quest. It is for what very reason we come together as a congregation in prayer and meditation. Avraham Yeshua Herschel wrote the following: prayer cannot bring water to parched fields, or mend a broken bridge, or rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. We engage in prayer to rebuild our will. We employ our will to engage the world. We engage the world to make it better for ourselves and others. Our engagement does not have to be heavy. It simply has to be present. Often, we ignore problems and challenges that face us instead of engaging them. But we discover that engaging them can be much easier than the effort of procrastinating or sweeping them under the rug. In fact, life becomes more satisfying and rewarding when we are all fully engaged. Let our hearts, let our prayers be engaged. Let us know and let us not allow indifference to fill our hearts. Let us acknowledge our principles, our values, and act on them. We are not obligated to respond to every call to action, but we should not ignore them. And let us acknowledge the challenges that face our society and accept that which we can do as individuals to make the world a better